This weekend on Sunday Morning Futures, I spoke with President Trump about the origins of the Russia probe and when his campaign was targeted by Hillary Clinton. When do you believe the FBI started working hand in glove with the Clinton operation to take you down? Was it early 16, or do you think it started even in 2015?
It started before I won, and it started when they started seeing that I could win, and it's a disgrace, and we caught them. We have them called, and now they have to do something about it. But other documents are going to be released, Maria, which are breathtaking. Yes. Wait till you see what's coming out. Oh, really? Breathtaking.
Is it about Hillary Clinton, or is it about the FBI that's coming out?
It's about everything. It's about everything. Hillary Clinton is crooked Hillary. How do you get rid of your emails after you get a subpoena? She got text messages, emails, etc. How do you do that? It's criminal.
FBI wanted to stop Donald Trump was to stop his incoming national security advisor, that NSA, was General Michael Flynn. Joining me right now is attorney for General Michael Flynn, former federal prosecutor and the author of the book Conviction Machine, Sidney Powell. Sidney, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for joining us. I want to ask you the same question, what you think about the coup to take down President Trump and how it was a target on your client's back. You have a scenario that you believe took place here. Tell us what you see.
Oh, definitely. They framed General Flynn because he was the cornerstone of the insurance policy to destroy President Trump in the event he was elected. If you'll remember the timeline, of course, we now know that Hillary Clinton approved the transactions on July 26th. Peter Strzok opened Crossfire Hurricane file on July 31st. On August 15, they texted Strzok and Page about McCabe and the insurance policy they discussed in his office. On August 16, the very next day, they opened the file against Flynn. On August 17, the day after that, they sent Agent Pienka into the presidential briefing to spy and collect information on General Flynn, Gage's baseline mannerisms and all of that, and to collect anything they could about the Russia situation to use later in the event President Trump was elected and Flynn was in the White House.
You know, Sidney, what gets me is that there were a fair amount of people within the FBI, within the DOJ, who said, no, this dossier doesn't look good. This is disinformation. This is not true. We shouldn't be going with it. But their red flags were put aside. I spoke with former acting director of national intelligence Rick Grinnell this weekend about that and why certain government officials did not speak up about the efforts to take down Donald Trump. Listen to what he said. He gave a really important explanation. Here it is. Opinion was the mastermind, and tell me what was going on here.
We now know that insiders in the government, at the CIA, at DOJ, at FBI, they knew that this was a Russian collusion hoax, and they allowed it to go forward for a variety of reasons. They were convinced that Hillary would win, and they didn't really want to challenge Goliath. They thought that their careers could be benefited if they just shut up. Right now, we have Comey and Brennan and others saying that they didn't know that this was a Russian collusion hoax. Their people knew, and so what we need to figure out is what level are these individuals going to go to jail. Somebody needs to go to jail.
So, Sidney, what is the state of affairs for your client at this point, General Michael Flynn?
Now, first, let's get right to our top story. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn has always been, an innocent man. And now it is more clear than ever that a few corrupt, high-ranking, deep state bureaucrats set him up. They were all bragging about it. And tonight, all signs point to the corrupt so-called leadership of a higher calling honor, Mr. Super Patriot Jim Comey. Why? Because according to newly unredacted FBI documents just released today, in early January 2017, the FBI, the Bureau, determined that Flynn was, quote, no longer a viable candidate as part of Crossfire Hurricane. There was no collusion. He did nothing wrong. These documents report that there was no derogatory material on Flynn in the FBI files, no derogatory material in the Defense Intel Agency files, no derogatory material in the CIA files. And by January 4th, the case against Flynn, they said it was going to be dropped. That is until the corrupt upper echelon of the FBI, already involved in Crossfire Hurricane, they jumped in. Peter Strzok, we now know, sent several urgent texts demanding to know if this case is still open. To his relief, the case was never officially closed, even though they had closed it. Strzok texted, quote, amazing. Okay, good, it's still open. And, quote, yeah, our utter incompetence actually helps us. Wow, that's breathtaking. Strzok informed his colleagues at the 7th floor. Now, what's the 7th floor? That's where the FBI upper echelon leadership was involved. And just like that, a few corrupt agents, they did in fact conspire. They set Flynn up, all under the watch of James Comey. On January 24, 2017, one agent asked, quote, what is our goal? Is it truth? Is it admission? Or is our goal to get him to lie so then we could prosecute him or at least get him fired? That is not a question that should ever be asked by anyone, any professional, and would never be asked by the 99% of brave professionals in the FBI. Now, shouldn't the goal of the FBI, not that question, should it always be truth, the rule of law, justice? They work in the Department of Justice. We have a system of justice in America. Apparently not in Jim Comey's FBI. Look at this. According to America's #1 super patriot, setting a perjury trap, put this in context for an American war hero, 33 years of service under his belt for this country so we can all live free. Yeah, that would be important. In one unredacted note, agents even considered using the Logan Act as a centerpiece of their scheme. Nobody has ever been found guilty of violating this arcane law since it was passed in 1799. Not one person. Even Bloomberg pointed out, yeah, this very fact. Nope, the Logan Act been used repeatedly as a partisan cajole to harass political opponents for more than 2 American centuries. And what exactly happened? Well, January 24th, that would be 4 days after Donald Trump was inaugurated, Mr. Higher Loyalty Super Patriot Jim Comey directed agents to literally go in and ambush a 33-year war vet at the White House just 4 days after Trump's inauguration and after Deputy Director McCabe of the FBI said to Flynn, oh, you don't need a lawyer. This isn't about you. Not at all.
And I want you to tell our audience your theory in terms of John Brennan. We now know that Stefan Halper, who is a former spy, has been subpoenaed. And he was getting payouts from the Office of Net Assessments at the Department of Defense, the Pentagon. And this was basically being overseen by John Brennan. Here are the payouts that Stefan Halper got. He was awarded a contract valued at $245,000 in September of 2015. Fast forward to 2016, and we see another huge payout of $411,000. That payout happened a month before the warrant to spy on Carter Page took effect. You have a theory in terms of what John Brennan was doing over there at the Pentagon, right?
Oh, yes. I think he was running a slush fund, essentially. He and the FBI, too, probably together through the Office of Net Assessment to fund Halper to create all this huge smear campaign against General Flynn. But I think Rick Grinnell really understated the situation. It wasn't that they allowed it to go forward. They jumped on it and pushed it forward to the extent of falsifying information for the FISA warrant, pushing it through the media every way they could, working with Glenn Simpson at Fusion GPS, intaking a thumb drive from a lawyer at Perkins Coie. I mean, they were intaking information from Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr. Everybody they knew was pushing this Russia hoax, and they knew it was a hoax.
They knew it, and they knew it was Hillary Clinton's idea. Sydney, real quick, what's the status of the case against General Michael Flynn? I know you have been pushing to get this dropped and Emmett Sullivan off the case. What's the status?
Yes, the government just filed a response to our recusal motion against Judge Sullivan a couple of days ago and suggested that he render that moot by granting the dismissal with prejudice. That would certainly be a good idea. Otherwise, he has to recuse himself.
Judges are human beings. They're imperfect human beings. When you look at judges over history, some have been great, some have been morons, some have been freedom fighters, some have been racists and bigots and corrupt. And I'm just talking about the Supreme Court justices. What's happened here? We have an imperfect human being. He's of flesh and blood, and he obviously hates Trump, and he honestly loves the Obama administration, because that's what's going on here. This is the Obama administration against the incoming Trump administration, the Trump candidacy, and the Trump presidency. It is an absolute disgrace. Now, I want to remind this judge of a couple of things. You like to be called Your Honor. Your Honor, you're an American citizen, and it's your job to protect what goes on in that courtroom and protect the defendant. Protect the defendant. Under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, Fourth Amendment, Judge, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Put aside this counterintelligence crap. That was a fiction from day one. Mr. Flynn is first and foremost an American citizen, as is everybody else who's been unmasked by the Obama administration. They used the surveillance of the Russian ambassador, and I suspect many others, as an excuse to backdoor their way into eavesdropping on American citizens, particularly those who work for the Trump administration, in clear violation of the purpose and intent of the Bill of Rights in the Fourth Amendment. Let me explain another amendment to the judge. That would be Amendment 5, the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. How the hell can you look at the documents that have been released recently on what the government did, specifically the Obama administration did, to Michael Flynn, among others, and say that there was due process of law? You have these phony former federal prosecutors, these phony former Democrats who worked in the Justice Department. You have these clowns on TV who are splitting hairs. He pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty. The man never had due process under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. Now, let me help out the judge a little bit further. You need what's called a case or controversy. You don't have a case, and you don't have a controversy. The parties have dropped out. The parties want to get out. You don't have the right to continue to do what you're doing. So what does the judge do? I don't like what the parties are doing. Whoa. What are you doing, Judge? I don't like it. I'm going to invite anybody who wants to file an amicus brief, a homeless guy, the guy at the fryer at McDonald's, and specifically, I'm going to ask another former judge, also appointed by Clinton, as this judge was. I loved his op-ed in the Washington Post on Monday. He says, I have all this power. I can ignore the executive branch and separation of powers. I can do whatever I want. I want him to send me a brief and tell me what I can do. In other words, another backdoor way to violate the Constitution. Judge, you expect us to follow your rulings and your opinions? You think you are the law? The United States Supreme Court, as Sean just alluded to, last week, in a unanimous decision that would be 9-0, written by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, took a situation like this where the Ninth Circuit was using amicus curiae, friend of court briefs, to change the nature and position the case. Not what the parties were fighting over, but what the court wanted them to fight over. So this judge is a rogue judge. He's out of control. He should recuse himself, but he's too damn arrogant, and he won't. So let me make a suggestion to the folks over there at the Department of Justice. They got a lot of smart attorneys in the Office of Legal Counsel and elsewhere. I used to work at that grand Department of Justice before the left destroyed it. It's called a writ of prohibition. It's almost never used, because we almost never have situations like this. And you file it with the appellate court, the D.C. Circuit Court. An appellate court's order to a lower court prohibiting it from acting because it lacks jurisdiction. This judge lacks jurisdiction to do what he's doing, according to the United States Supreme Court last week, according to the United States Constitution. And if he wants to be an Obama flunky and a never-Trumper, then take your black robe off, Judge, leave the courtroom, and join the rest of us. But if you're not going to conduct yourself like a serious judge, you either recuse yourself, resign, or the department has to go over his head to the D.C. Circuit and get him the hell off this case.